All right, and away we go. Here we are once again with Two Guys in a Beer podcast, episode number 5. As we get set a bottle this time instead of cans, so
Yes.
little different feel, different sound, I guess.
And that's the authentic taking off the bottle top as opposed to our intro there.
Yeah, so a little bit more. I mean, it's still legit. I'm sure they probably opened a bottle then, but this one's way better. This, you get a little bit more direct. So as we work our way into episode number 5, so more than a month, continuing to work our way along. Sean has done some research over the time about. You said a lot of podcasts don't get all that far or don't get a lot of whatever it may be.
Yeah,
a lot of struggles.
Yeah, no, they really don't. So most of the things I've been reading about podcasts, like new podcasters, when they start, 44% of them don't get past episode 3. And here we are at episode 5. So we're inching our way along, trucking right along.
It's kind of amazing to me. I mean, and I run into this, I think we both kind of run into the same kind of thing where not necessarily a part of it is a time commitment, but also just having the time availability. You know what I mean? We work opposite shifts, and the way that days off work together, sometimes it's only one day a week, really. And sometimes even that day doesn't even work. So, I mean, I guess you could see as long as you can stick with it, it's challenging to do, I suppose.
Yeah, it is tough from a time commitment. Like you said, both working full-time jobs, opposite shifts. The amount of time it takes to do a podcast, for those of you out there don't know, it really is more than you think. We're just doing this as a hobby. For fun. We're trying to do it right to hopefully it sounds professional and people take on to liking and listening to it. We're trying to improve on it. Any feedback people have, we're trying to change some things. But it really is a lot of work doing a podcast. You wouldn't seem to think so, but it really is.
And Sean, I appreciate you doing most of that work. I mostly just show up and babble along. It's about my level of involvement lately.
Well, life happens. We all have stuff going on, especially when you're married. So
absolutely.
Happy wife, happy life, right?
Right. Yeah. We'll maybe get into that a little bit later. See if we got some more topics on that. We talked in one of the previous episodes about driving and road trips with that. So I have to go back and listen to that segment at some point in time. So. Two Guys in a Beer podcast. Once again, you can find us on all the different platforms. Like, share, subscribe, tell all your friends and everything like that. As we move into episode number 5, we move our way into a new month. We said we made it more than a month. Now we're into October. So we thought it'd be kind of, I think apropos is the right word for that, to maybe delve into the world of Octoberfest beers.
Yeah, Octoberfest is a pretty huge thing, so we thought we would bring you guys some different Octoberfest beer. I don't know if you're on social media a lot, people out there listening, but there is brew fests all over the place. In our state of Minnesota, I've seen them in Michigan, Wisconsin, Iowa, the Dakotas. They're everywhere in October. A lot of local breweries show up, craft breweries show up. Oktoberfest is a big thing. And as I was thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know a ton about Oktoberfest or the history of it. So I figured on our next episode, you guys will have to tune in and we'll share some facts on the actual origins of Oktoberfest, why it happened, how it started, and things like that.
So we'll get going on some of that in the next episode. This one will be focusing on Bell's Oktoberfest. And I think when you had mentioned that this is the one we were going to do, my first thought was, I've had some Bell's. You would ask me if I had had it, and I've had Bell's, but I've had the Bell's Two-Hearted Ale, but I have not ventured too far outside of that. I do enjoy that beer, but excited to try this and learn more about the history of Bell's.
And Bell's, it's actually a pretty big company for a craft brewing company. They sell beer. They're from Michigan, so they were founded in Kalamazoo, Michigan. That's where it was founded.
Kalamazoo.
As they expanded over the years, that's just fun to say, Kalamazoo. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think I'd like to go to Kalamazoo.
Just if nothing else, say that
name.
Yeah, absolutely.
As they've expanded over the years, most of their brewing now is done in Comstock, Michigan, where this Oktoberfest is brewed that we'll talk about here. But as I was talking, Bell's, it's all over the place. They sell beer in Texas, Louisiana, Minnesota, Missouri, anyway from Michigan all the way down to Texas, that whole way there. A little bit on the West Coast. For a small local craft brewer, they really have beer all over the country. They've won awards nationally, locally, regionally. they're just kind of all over the place for a local craft brewer. One of the first to kind of get that type of recognition.
Be a lot of fun to be able to go check out something like that. I mean, even beyond the Kalamazoo, but be able to go and check out kind of a place like Bell's with that type of distributorship. It's kind of a cool thing to be able to be that big, but still remain kind of local. I mean, we see it a little bit here in Minnesota with like a Surly. I think is probably one of the bigger ones, that will distribute pretty heavy, but it's kind of fun to be able to see some of those.
Yeah, and for being a craft brewer to be that big, and they kind of keep it at a local craft brewery. That's the type of beer they make is craft beer. They don't really have like a Miller Lite or a Bud Light. They don't have like that signature basic lager. Everything they brew is craft brews, and they have such a lineup. I can't even tell you all the beers that they do. They have a ton of seasonal beers. They change new beers all the time, add new beers, take new beers away. And of course, Octoberfest is a seasonal beer for every brewery. It just comes out for Octoberfest, but they have such a lineup of beer. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's nice to have good to have a little variety, but a lot of local craft beers. If you breweries, I should say, you go there, you'd be able to try just a multitude of them. I remember years ago talking to a friend about kind of trying to explain how craft beer in a way works, because their mindset was, well, I like Coors Light. I'm like, okay, well, I don't like, we'll say, I don't remember what it was, but we'll see. We use Surly as an example. And he's like, well, what kind of beer is Surly? It's like, well, they got a couple of different ones. And they're like, well, it's not just Surly. Because they're in that mindset of it's one, you know what I mean? It's either Coors. And I'm like, well, it's kind of like Coors Banquet as opposed to Coors Light. It's like, no, it's a different beer. Well, sort of, but it's the same. So it was kind of an explaining, but again, this was years ago, before like the really big time craft beer scene had kind of split out there. But that's one of the funnest things about breweries now is go and try a flight. The likelihood of finding one, you'll probably find something you like.
You'll find something you like on the flight for sure. And you bring up tasting flights. That's probably one of my favorite things about visiting in different breweries is trying the flights and the different things. And usually I find more than one I like, but the amount of flavors and stuff that breweries can make one system to have those flights, usually you get 5 or 6 beers on a flight. Mm-hmm. And a lot of breweries you go to, you can get 2, maybe 3 different flights of different beer. Yeah. It's just crazy like what they can do. And some taste like peach, some taste like cherry, some are coffee, some are peanut butter. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of all over the board. And we'll have to try to see if he's listening. This is a kind of semi-closed circuit, very open circuit. I don't know why people say closed circuit, but directly commenting to him. We'll try to get Brandon onto the podcast. He's one of a local friend of ours that does a lot of brewing. That I think it'd be a lot of fun to chat with him about some of the variety and how to be able to get into all the different flavors. So anyway, we'll tangent Tuesday on a Monday here. We'll get back to mostly talking about Bell's out of Comstock. And I believe Sean did the research on this particular one.
So, yeah, this brewery, like we already said, is pretty big for a craft brewery. You can buy the beer all over the place. It has fantastic history. I'm not going to go through the whole timeline of history for you, but I'll give you some facts about it. Initially, the guy that founded Bell's, his name is Larry Bell.
Oh, there you go.
That's pretty simple.
Okay.
So when he originally built a store in Kalamazoo, Michigan, he wasn't brewing beer at all. He had a store that sold supplies to brew beer. Like he didn't brew any beer. It was just there like a hardware store for people that wanted to brew beer, basically. Right. That's what he had there. And he opened that up somewhere in the early 1980s. He opened that homebrew supply shop in Kalamazoo. He did make some beer on his own here and there, but not really for anything special or anything big. Well, he kept getting requests for samples of his beer, so he started brewing his own beer. 1985 is when he sold his first beer. But when he first started brewing, he's commercially for people to actually buy beer, he brewed it in a 15-gallon soup pot in his basement.
Oh, I mean, that'll work.
Yeah. And when I was reading about that sounded familiar to Andy brewing beer in a pot in his house with a drill through the hood.
You got to get creative sometimes. Yeah.
So Larry Bell went from brewing beer in a soup pot in his basement to one of the biggest craft breweries in the country in Kalamazoo, Michigan. His first brew that he beered was an amber ale in 1985. That's still one of their most popular beers that they sell, and they actually call it the beer that built the Bell's Brewery.
That's a lot of bees. It's a lot of good alliteration by them.
Beer production there reached 135 barrels within a year. He had 9 people on staff, and they bottled and delivered everything, distributed everything for the next 4 years. Him and his 9 employees did everything. They didn't have a distributor. They didn't have any of that. They brewed it, they bottled it, and they labeled it. They distributed it themselves. Now, that first 135 barrels, and if you remember, the average 1 barrel of beer is 31 gallons. So that's kind of what they were brewing there that time. 1987, they brewed their first porter. 1988, they brewed their first Kalamazoo stout. And again, when we're talking craft brewery, this brewery brews everything. Stouts, ales, lagers, Octoberfest, anything, they brew it all there. In 1988, I thought this one was interesting. They brewed a cherry stout in 88. You know, when you think of craft breweries and beer and goofy flavors like cherry beer and orange beer, to us, it seemed like 10 years ago, they really didn't exist. You know, It wasn't mainstream. You know,
absolutely.
Now, we already talked about it before, but now you can go to breweries everywhere. So in 88, they were already brewing a cherry stout, and they used cherries from Traverse City, Michigan.
Okay.
Which, of course, if people know a lot about Michigan, they grow a ton of cherries in Michigan.
Yeah.
So he locally sourced all their own products. And
trying to think, years ago when I was in high school, I want to say there was like a band trip or something to a cherry festival. I don't remember what city it was, but that was their whole thing. The whole town deal and the parade and all the stuff was the cherry festival. So I didn't know that was a widespread thing. But when you learn things when you're like 14 years old, you know, it's different context in your mind.
Yeah,
what it is.
One of the times when I rode my motorcycle around Lake Michigan, I went through Traverse City during Cherry Festival weekend.
There we go.
Massive amounts of people there. Continuing on with Bell's, in 1988, they brewed their first double cream stout. 1993, they opened up their first eccentric cafe where you could actually go try a beer right at the brewery, eat some food and stuff. And actually, what's interesting about that was Larry, he had to work with the Michigan legislator to change state law regarding breweries so they could sell their own brew in the tap room attached to the brewery with food. You couldn't do that before.
I suppose everything was distributorship and
right. And all the laws, you couldn't do that. You know, you couldn't brew the beer there and drink it right there. It was just kind of weird.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, but I suppose that stuff probably goes back to prohibition and goofy laws.
Stuff that just hasn't been repealed or changed or whatever,
right.
Which that's a whole different podcast we could get into on that one.
So Larry played a vital part in that. So you could probably thank him for starting maybe the law changes in other states too, towards local beer, craft beer. You said you had the Two Hearted Ale.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one, that came about in 1997.
Okay.
So that's when that one started.
There we go.
And it's one of their best sellers. It still is one of their best sellers. That's one of their top. That's probably why you've had that one.
Likely. It's pretty common in a lot of liquor stores. You know, sometimes obviously when you get to like an Octoberfest, you start seeing more variety of that specific type, but like a year-round type, like that Bell's Two Hearted is pretty common. You can find it in a lot of places. So I
think I'm going to have to try that one, or we might have to do a podcast episode.
There we go. One. We can always add that it just has the 2 fish on it.
So for the first version of that, Two Hearted debuted in the late 1980s. It originally started as a pale ale and was brewed with English malt and Wisconsin-grown hops. Again, this brewery likes to use locally sourced ingredients, and that's what they did. And then the Two Hearted Ale is what we already talked about. It came out in 1997. That would debut in 1997. It was like a winter seasonal beer. Then in 2003, now they offer that beer all year round. It's because it's one of their best sellers.
Okay.
2001, Bell's left Kalamazoo, Michigan. Well, they're still there, the original tap room and stuff, but they bought more acreage in Comstock, Michigan, to build a new facility and to brew more beer because they're getting so big. And that's, of course, where this Octoberfest is brewed that we're drinking here, which was first brewed in 2001, this Octoberfest. So now that we're on the Oktoberfest, and when they brew this, it spends a full 6 weeks fermenting.
Wow.
Is how long they ferment it for the Oktoberfest.
It's quite the commitment on that. I know that if you let it kind of sit a little bit longer, it starts to kind of even out a little bit, starts to kind of settle down with some of the flavors. But generally, it's 2 or 3 weeks It's not a super quick process, but it's usually not, you're not waiting quite that long.
No. Yeah. And this, what do you think of this beer so far?
I like it. It's pretty smooth. It's pretty smooth. It's not super heavy. It's not super, I don't say like not super dark, but it's not super thick, I guess, in a way. It's still kind of light.
It goes down kind of light and easy for an Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
You know, Oktoberfests are interesting because every brewery makes them. Some are really good. Some are kind of skunky, in my opinion. But this one actually goes down pretty light and it's pretty enjoyable.
Definitely has that very distinct, don't know how to explain it, almost caramely type of, the very distinct Oktoberfest type of flavor that comes to it. It's almost molasses-ish. Kind of like that.
Kind of malty.
It definitely still has that type of flavor to it. But yeah, it's not overpowering, but it's also not bland for sure. It's not. So I don't want to come across as saying it's too bland, but it's definitely not overpowering and really in your face.
No, it's definitely not. Back in 2008, so the Bell's Brewery, they shipped out more than 100,000 barrels of beer. So that was a new milestone for them. So like I keep saying, it's a local craft brewery, but it's big time local craft brewery. And they stick on there with the craft beers. It's nothing, no basic normal beers come out of this place. And even going on that, in 2012, they shipped out 200,000 barrels in a year. So they continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. In 2018, they still grow. They bought 12 additional 800 barrel fermenters. They installed those. In 2018, 12 additional 800 barrel each fermenters.
Just in my mind, it keeps coming back to like water sourcing. You can just get a well or whatever, but it amazes me like the amount of water you would go through for this, Yeah,
that's got to be a lot. When they installed all those, they included more things in that. They included a yeast propagation system upgrades, 2 pilot brew systems, and a specialty packaging line installation in 2018.
Okay. I suppose at that level, you kind of got to have some additional equipment to be able to make everything work, be able to get it out there to the masses.
Right, especially at the scale they're producing it at. Also in that year, 2018, they had its first publication in the Journal of the American Society of Brewing Chemists, the ASBC.
There it is.
Never heard of that, but it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I was a brewery chemist. Brandon is a brewery chemist.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm pretty sure I passed chemistry in high school, but I did not have the brewery in mind at the time. I probably should have spent more time with that.
Going back to this beer, Oktoberfest, it's got an ABV rating of 5.5%, so it's not too bad for a craft beer. It's not going to knock your socks off or anything. Like we talked about, a little bit lighter. Lightly toasted malt, that's kind of how I feel that it tastes for the most part. It's pretty good Oktoberfest.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty solid. I quite enjoy it. What does the back here say? Bell's Oktoberfest is community in a glass. Our traditional Marzen lager has rich German malt flavors and crisp hop aromas, making it perfect pairing for the annual festival tradition of drinking beer with friends. Annual festival? I thought that it would be drinking beer with friends was more of a annual daily thing.
Like all the time. Yeah, it's good beer. I do like this Oktoberfest. Some I don't, but this one's actually pretty good. I would drink this again. Have a few of them. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a pretty solid option. It was, I had the confidence when you had said we were going to be doing this one, like, Bell's, I like the one. And so you really like one, you start thinking, okay, well, I should like more there, but that doesn't always translate through there. But this is a nice, easy drinking, solid option. I like it.
Yeah, I'd like to try more from this brewery. I think that could be another road trip opportunity. Michigan isn't more than 5 hours away from here, so we might have to think about that here one of these days.
I like it. We could certainly do that and have kind of a Midwest road trip through a bunch of different places. Take a week off or something.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Love it. No, this is this is fantastic. So if you're out and about, definitely stop and get some. Guess anything Bell's, but the Bell's Oktoberfest. Highly recommend being able to give it a shot.
And again, the original place is in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where you can still go there, go to their tap house, drink some beer, eat some food. They actually have live music there, built the sound stage. You can actually go tour their plant in Comstock, Michigan, too, where they bought the extra acreage and stuff. You can actually tour both places and whatnot. So if you're out there, swing by, check it out. They brew some great beer.
You think they'd let me just put a ladle in one of the big tanks?
Try it. Just pull one out of your pants.
Right. Don't mind me. I'm just taste testing here. I'm from the Association of Brewery Chemists.
Yeah. We should make up fake badges and put it on our chest, wear a polo shirt and be like, hey, we're here to check your chemistry.
That's what they say. The places that you can get into, if you have a clipboard and a vest or like a hard hat or something, people just like, oh, they know what they're doing. And you just let them go wherever. That's what we can do.
It could be like that movie Catch Me If You Can with, who was in that, Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio, where he impersonates a pilot and a doctor and he gets away with it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't see why we couldn't do that with beer chemist stuff.
Yeah, we might have to move to Florida, though, so when the headline comes out, Florida men caught doing... Although they'd probably be more likely if it was Minnesota or Wisconsin for that.
Yeah, probably. I think Wisconsin is one of the drunkest states in the country. I think I read that somewhere.
It sounds accurate. Yeah. It seems as accurate as could be. But if anybody's from Wisconsin tuning in, you can go ahead and send your feedback to me.
Since we're throwing out people tuning in, I just wanted to give a shout out to our listeners in Granberry, Texas. We notice we have some downloads coming from there every episode. We get a new download from Granberry, Texas. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, I appreciate you guys listening. If there's any local beer down there that we can't get up here and you want to ship it up to us somehow,
absolutely.
Get a hold of us on one of our social medias or email us, 2guysinbeer@gmail.com. And we'll send you like a hat or something like that for sending us beer. If you want to, of course. You don't have to, but.
Absolutely. Yeah. That'd be fantastic. Real cool. Be able to try something local.
I just want to give a shout out to you guys. I know you guys keep downloading our episode every time it comes out. So we appreciate that. If you have any feedback, let us know. If there's something you want to hear or see, or not see, because we don't have video, but.
Not yet. You never know. We could be adding that someday. Eventually. I don't know. Possibly.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. That might actually cause our listenership to go down. See these mugs on it.
Yeah, I would have to agree. We're probably not so camera friendly.
I was always told that, I have a face for radio, so. So yeah, no, I appreciate, especially, kind of the far connection of wherever it is and however you found it and however you made your way to us. We definitely appreciate that. Some of it's friends and family and some of it is just, kind of word of mouth, getting it out there. So we appreciate anybody who has shared it with everybody or recommended it. And we appreciate everybody clicking on and listening and being a part of the program. So yeah. And again, if you have a specific beer you'd like us to try, if nothing else, even just that, send us, you don't have to send us the beer, although that's always accepted.
We won't turn that away.
Maybe just send us some recommendations because, it's fun to, if nothing else, probably one of the funnest things is just researching like the background, just getting the idea of like where it comes from. Obviously, it's the best is probably the drinking of the beer.
That's the best, yeah.
But being able to kind of do the research and learn some different stuff and just get the background and how many of them. Some of them have like starting. I was reading about one that we might do here in the next month or so that they started. A little bit of a preview. They started out with a modest 15 barrel system. And in my mind, I'm like, that's a big system. That's what you're starting out with. You think of different places like Castle Danger up in Two Harbors, started with, it was like a guy in his shack. And then Bell's, starting with like a stock pot.
Right. Yeah.
And we're not starting out, with these massive systems. I think that Brandon's probably said the same thing. He starts out, it's kind of like a stock pot and a turkey fryer type of setup or whatever in his driveway. And, the stuff that he makes is amazing. It doesn't have to be a massive system and it has to be able to distribute it. But yeah, it's kind of crazy, the different levels of where people start and kind of the development of where it goes.
How it goes. And you brought up Castle Danger up in Two Harbors. They helped to get the Minnesota law changed because they were selling so much beer they couldn't sell any more of it out of the tap house. They could sell it off the tap, like if you were to go there, but they couldn't can beer anymore and sell it to you because they outsold what the Minnesota state law allowed.
Yeah. So there was, I'm trying to remember if it was 5 or 6 breweries that ended up, they started it, but they were part of, there was a handful of them that have the new growler law or whatever it was.
Right. Yeah.
Which, if you've seen my pic, I have like a giant growler collection that I enjoy collecting the growlers. People have given them to me over time as well, but mostly I'm like, I want to go get it. I mean, I like to be able to collect it, but I want to have the experience of being there.
Go drink. How many do you have on your wall on there?
I think I have. At one point in time, I took them all down because I had to, clean them, and we were like painting the dining room or something like that or whatever. And at that time, I think I had 99 bottles of beer on the wall. But I think I'd probably be up to about 115-ish now.
Nice.
I finished the shelf goes all four, a little jut out around one corner or whatever, but like all four walls, like all the way around now. So it's not quite full yet. But the shelf is all the way around. I don't know what I'm going to do when I run out of shelf space, but I'll have to start lining another room or something.
Did you and Amanda sing the song when you were taking them down and cleaning them?
We didn't. When I had them down and I had them all laid out or whatever, it was actually, we didn't even count them. But a friend of ours, he happened to be he came to pick us up for something or whatever, and he was looking at that, and he was like, holy crap, you got so many bottles. You ever counted them? I'm like, no, I have no idea or whatever. And so we counted them up, and he's like, you got 99 bottles of beer. So it was just a tremendous amount of random irony that popped up on that one. So true story too. So I'm not making it up here. But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun being able to, collect there are a handful of them up there that I personally have not been to, but Amanda's been. So it kind of works, right? I've had the beer, but I just wasn't there. I'll still go. Don't worry, I'll make it there. Most of them are Minnesota. There's a couple from like Vegas and a couple from Florida.
Oh, okay.
Kind of out and about a little bit, but the vast majority, probably 90% of them are Minnesota.
Sure. Now, I don't collect anything from breweries until I went up to Keweenaw, and I got one from their brewery. So I have one.
There you go.
I have one growler in my collection.
I got a couple of double ups. You can have, you can start, working on the collection as well. The crazy thing, you start thinking about, because a lot of breweries, they'll give you can buy the beer, but you get a deposit for the glass. And then when you bring the same growler back in, they just refill the same glass.
Sure. Isn't it for like $4 or don't they charge to refill a growler a couple bucks or something?
Yeah, it's not too bad. But, like the deposit sometimes is, like $15 or something like that or whatever, which is what it is. You get the thing and you buy it and move on. But I started thinking about, my God, if I had like 100 and some at 15, that's a lot of glass. A lot of glass costs that I have just hanging on the wall. It's not exactly something you can just bring back and just like, all right, I'll take my $15 back or something,
right.
But I don't know. There was a local brewery that actually did for a little while, just not too far from here, that I think it was like during COVID, because there was kind of a glass shortage and things like that going on, that if you brought not only your growler to get filled, but if you brought another growler, they would actually give you the beer for
nice.
free. Or there was some deal like that you get like a discount on the beer itself, just because they needed the glassware. They didn't care who it came from or what it said on. It could be Sin City from Vegas or something like that, Bells from Kalamazoo.
Sure.
But as long as you brought in a growler, aside from the one you were getting filled, obviously the one you're getting filled then takes care of the deposit. But yeah,
right.
That second one, instead of giving you another credit or something, they just basically gave you the beer. So
nice. But
yeah, it was a lot of fun because I had a bunch of doubles, so took advantage of that a few times. But hey, win-win for everybody.
Right? Yeah. Why not? Why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's Octoberfest, getting kind of into that fall. Kind of a little bit of a chill. I'd say there's a little bit of a chill in the air, but I was yesterday got up at this is going to air at different point in time, but yesterday got up at 3:30 in the morning to drive down to the cities to be a part of the TC 10 mile. It was the Twin Cities Marathon and the TC 10 mile. And I was planning on doing that. You can tell because of my sleek physique and running aura, obviously.
Yeah, you're pretty epic looking.
Exactly.
For running.
And so we get there, we park, we pay the $20 for parking, and we get set, and we walk. We hadn't even walked from our parking spot to the shuttle buses. And that's when the email came out that it was canceled.
Okay, because I was just going to ask. I just read earlier today that one was canceled. That was the one, huh?
It was canceled because of the wet glow bulb reading was too high.
What? What is that?
I had to Google it. I had to spend a lot of time in the internet trying to be able to look at it. It's some fancy new metric that they have come up with that actually, when you learn more about it, it's kind of legit, but it seems very like, okay, you're just making stuff up now at this point in time. There's some reading that takes into account if you take like a wet rag and cover it over the top of like a thermometer, like how quickly like the moisture leaves and what temperature it becomes. It's supposed to indicate essentially like how sweat with your body works and how that there's a whole long string of numbers that takes into account humidity and temperature. And
it sounds like a government thing to me. Something that makes no sense whatsoever.
It was kind of random, but yeah. So it was, that came out or whatever, and they canceled it because
what
it was
does that have
basically
to do with
hot,
running though?
I think it
too hot.
Yeah, I think essentially it was. Okay. Yeah, essentially it's not even. I mean, it was pretty hot, but like the level of humidity, so that like the sweat doesn't actually cool your body down as much as it should. I think that's the concept, at least. I don't know. I sweat walking over to the start line, so it's a whole different ballgame for me. But
well, you should probably bring some Bell's Octoberfest beer with you when you can be drinking that on your way to the start line.
There we go. That's that was the better thing.
So, I mean, there's some hops in here and some yeast and some good local products. It'd probably do your system good.
They do actually say that after running that it's a good recovery drink. No, they also say something about moderation, but I've never listened that far, so it's a whole different deal there. But yeah, no, I was saying it. It's like it's getting to that kind of cool fall air, but I just had a thing canceled because of heat, so I guess it's not quite that. But it's supposed to be kind of a little crisp later on this week or whatever. So, but yeah, it's a Octoberfest and the fall harvest and everything going on with that. And at some point in time, I need to. We got a couple of apple trees out here. We got 2 Honeycrisp trees, and I always forget to take all the apples off. Then in the spring, they're just like mush.
My wife and I want to plant some Honeycrisp apples here probably this spring.
Okay.
I've got a spot cleared out for probably 3 Honeycrisp apple trees and 3 Granny Smith apple trees is kind of what we want to do. We just went to an apple orchard this weekend and got some fresh Honeycrisp apples and caramel and
there you go.
All that stuff you do at an apple orchard.
Right.
Speaking of apples, I've got a great fun fact.
Ooh, there we go.
Everybody that I just happened to come across the other day, and I don't know if it's a fun fact, but you'll think twice now about buying when you buy your apples at any supermarket. So apparently, supermarket apples that you bought at any supermarket can be up to a year old.
Wow!
You don't even know that. So that's how long apples last. So apparently, because apples, they only grow one time a year. They're only harvested one time a year. It doesn't matter what part of the world they're in.
And yet somehow they're available year-round.
They're available year-round. So when they're picked between August and November, they're covered in wax, and then they're hot air dried and sent into cold storage. And that's where they sit.
It explains kind of why they have kind of that little waxy exterior to a certain extent. Of course, I think they buff them a little bit too. But
they probably do. Give them a little shine under those lights. But make them look more appealing when you're trying to buy produce. I don't really buy produce, but
right.
I like produce. I don't
know. It depends on the apples, but I like some apples. But they're definitely in a store different than like the ones that I have grown out here. They're much different. I mean, they taste similar-ish, I guess. But these they just look a little bit different.
Have you ever bought apples from a grocery store and they're kind of maybe a little mushy? Kind of. I mean, they're still hard and crisp, but they're not like buying or picking one off your tree.
Yep.
Those must be the old ones. Maybe.
You gotta have that right crunch, where you bite it and it comes off in like a big hunk. That's primo. But yeah, when it's a little kind of like, I usually just throw that away immediately. I'm like, nope, I'm over this. I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, apples are good, especially when you dip them in caramel. Mm-hmm. I like that, like fresh caramel in the tub, and you just slice up an apple and just scoop it up and just get a big chunk of that caramel.
Just spoon that in.
It kind of almost defeats the purpose of eating an apple, but I don't care. It's so good.
It's a healthy spoon, is what it is. That's at least what I'm going to go with. I don't know.
A healthy spoon. I'll go with that. Yeah.
Fair. At least that's, I don't know. I try to find the healthy stuff. I mean, not that often, but I like to say that I find the healthy stuff makes me feel better about, about everything.
Well, what we eat. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked before, we kind of alluded a little bit earlier in the episode about the driving discussion that we had previously, yes. But you had another thing you wanted to address or bring up or discuss with our audience.
Yes. I want to know how many people resonate with this with their wives or their long-term girlfriends or whatever it is. I just choose marriage because I'm married and Andy's married, so it's just easier to talk about that way. But marriage, this is what marriage is. Marriage is, think about this, times that you've done it. You come home, you sit on the couch, you crack the recliner, put your feet up. Oh, there goes my phone dropping on the ground.
At least it wasn't the beer.
Yeah, no, save the beer. But you go in, you and your wife talk, oh yeah, honey, let's watch a movie, let's watch a TV show, or even if you don't agree on watching a show, and she's like, yeah, go ahead, watch sports. You're like, yes, I can watch sports. Mm-hmm. Sit in there within 10 minutes, even if it's a movie you picked out together or a show she wants to watch and she picked out, and you're like, okay, dear, whatever you want, I'll watch what you want. Being a good husband, watch what you want, mm-hmm. we'll watch. Within 10 minutes, they're on their phone, flinging through social media, watching clips of shorts and little videos and all those little TikToks.
Ridiculous reels from two guys in a beer.
Yes, on max volume. Max volume. So, of course, when this happens, I turn my head real slowly to the right because she's always sitting to my right and stare at her. And then she turns her head very slowly to the left and looks at me at the corner of her eye and slowly pulls her phone down and puts it away. I'm like, really, babe? Really? She's like, what?
What?
Like, I thought we wanted to watch this. Well, I'm listening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but that's not watching.
I used to have a few coworkers that were kind of like that. Like it was kind of, we start watching a movie at work or something like that. Just, it's a type of job where you can like watch a movie or something while you're waiting for something else to happen. And you start watching something and you're like, all right, well, I have to hit pause because I now have to recap what the last 15 minutes was to be able to explain what's going on. So,
does your wife do that? Does she fling through
a
social
little
media,
bit,
watch some videos?
A little bit, but
on max volume.
It's usually, I mean, there's maybe a little bit of volume sometimes, but usually not like max volume necessarily. But for her, it's generally she doesn't watch like a lot of TV. She'll put on one of the remodeling shows and then just not pay attention to that. So it's, whenever like we're watching TV at the same time, generally it's a little bit later in the night, she's already got her running and we've had dinner and whatnot. And so I'm watching whatever I'm going to watch and she is sitting on the recliner asleep.
Oh,
that's usually what she falls asleep quite a bit earlier than I do. I'm more of a night owl and I try to wake up early in the morning, but then it's all right. Well, no, I'm going to just watch TV until about 11 or so, and like 8 o'clock, she's like, okay, sounds good. Yeah, watch whatever. Which is fine. I kind of judge a little bit, but I'm not really judging, I mean, she gets up a lot earlier than I do, so it kind of makes sense. But yeah, as far as like actually watching TV, sometimes we'll watch a movie and we'll kind of actually focus in on that or whatever. But yeah, if it's like TV shows or episodes of something, because I try to like save an episode. I'm like, I think this would be a show that you'd like, and we could watch it together. That could be a thing, and we'd watch like a couple episodes, and then she'd be just dialed out, or sleep through half of it. And she's like, I don't really care. Just go ahead and watch whatever. Okay, yeah. I guess we're not going to watch the rest of that.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. There's not a lot of watching much TV. It's on in the background.
Mm. Yeah, it exists within the world.
Pretty much. Yeah, it's interesting how that's kind of taken that medium these days. And before, remember, you'd get home, turn on the TV right away, and you're just glued to it to watch everything. Now there's so much stuff to watch. It's probably why it's just background noise now.
Yeah. And it does not the same kind of effect, at least for me.
Right. And 20-second videos with your partner on the couch on max volume. Right. That's what it's turned into now. I love my wife so much, but let me tell you this thing too about my wife as we're carrying on here.
I don't think that she's subscribed yet, so I think we're good. I think we're in the clear. Everybody else out there, be cool. Everybody be cool.
So let's see. I wonder how many other halves do this. So it can be, probably the last couple of years now. It'd be 95, 100 degrees out. I've got the fan on in the house. The windows boarded up. Well, not boarded up, but they're closed up. The air conditioner's running, or our geothermal system's running. She turns the fan off because she's cold. It's 95 degrees outside, 80% humidity, and you turn the fan off.
Won't take long to warm up.
No, because she's cold and she's got a blanket on. And another reason she doesn't want the fan on is because it's drying out her eye sockets. So she turns the fan off. I'm like, well, it's the middle of the summer and I'm sweating my you-know-what off.
Right.
Like, it's 95 degrees out. And now, this is new. This past couple of weeks, well, probably 2 weeks ago, it was around a high of 50 in Minnesota here for about a week. She opens the window and turns the fan on because she's hot.
I mean, it's a whole circular thing. Right. It's, the essence of the flow and I don't know, I'm making stuff.
I don't get it. Like, she literally took the comforter off our bed and we're covered up with a sheet with the window open and it's 50 degrees out and the fan is on. And I am shivering and shaking like I just went down with the Titanic in 32-degree water. And she's like, oh, it's so hot in here. I don't understand.
Maybe she needs a new thermostat. Is that the regulator is the shift-em-a-flu got stuck.
And there's no hot flashes or any of that stuff going on yet. We're not quite to that age yet, but because I asked her, I'm like, are you going through something yet? She's like, oh, no. Like, there's no signs of it, no nothing. I'm like, what is the matter with you? I can't be cool in the summer, and apparently I can't be warm in the winter. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I told her I might have to build myself another bedroom down in the basement or something. And
right. A little more temperature regulated.
Yeah. She gives me a look like, you think that's going to keep me out of your bedroom or away from you? I'm like, oh, well, I guess not. So that's kind of my rant about marriage and ladies. And, if there's any app developers out there, you might as well start the app because I'm giving you some good material, good things to add to this app these last couple episodes. So.
There you go. Yep. Yeah. So if you're looking for one or if you got something in development, definitely reach out to us.
The how-to guide on the female species.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
$3.99 to download.
Yep. Exactly.
That's my plug-in there.
Love it. So that was episode 5 with Bell's Beer and many more things. But Bell's Beer. We talked a little bit about some of the upcoming episodes, and I think next we're going to be looking at Shell's Octoberfest.
Oh, nice.
Shell's Octoberfest. So if you have an opportunity to be able to head out, maybe find yourself they have it in bottles. I went actually to the one kind of locally. They had it in bottles and in cans. So I went back and forth on which one I wanted. I opted for cans, but it's bottles are, I don't know. I sometimes prefer bottles, but to each their own. They're different. I think it was more the sound effect. I think was
sure.
But really I prefer the bottle generally. But either way, you can usually find both. But so we'll talk a little Shell's history if you want to get a 6-pack or a 12-pack of Shell's Octoberfest and join us on a future episode. That'd be quite fantastic. But until then, Sean, if you have anything else to add, otherwise we can be found on all major podcast platforms. I actually was kind of checking it out a little bit just on Spotify the other day, just to kind of look through some stuff just to see what's out there and see how it comes up on the other end. So that way I see what the listeners are seeing too, just to check it out. But yeah, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble. Still haven't quite figured out what that is, but it's a thing. It's out there, and people do stuff. I'm not up on that. But otherwise, reach out to us on one of the platforms. Give us some feedback, give us some ideas. A beer that you may be looking for, or just some ideas if you're an app developer looking for a how-to on women. And you're looking for Sean's insight.
I'm full of insight.
Be able to check that out. Otherwise, you can email us at 2guysnbeer. That's 2guysnbeer@gmail.com. Option to be able to reach out for us as well.
If you want some more history on the Bell's Brewery that we talked about today, go to bellsbrewery.com. We're not getting paid for this plug-in or anything like that, but there's so much history on that website. We weren't able to share it all with you. Go check it out, and that's really about it. God bless everybody.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.